So now we have researchers and policymakers who are going to examine issues of labor, jobs, AI, and our systems of resource distributions. And I want to give a warm welcome to Andy Stern.
So I think if there's one lesson that I have learned in my life, it is that change is inevitable. It's actually progress that's optional, and leadership, which is why we're all here, I think can really make a difference right now. And so let me explain. I'll start with my perspective on AI and technological change and jobs and work, which comes out of a long journey I took for 3 years trying to understand the future of work. And I came away with this very simple perspective, that there is the potential, and the emphasis is potential, on the greatest disruption of jobs in the history of the world. And that's not just an overstatement or my thinking. I think that if you kind of look at all the reputable research we now see coming out, and you can add to this Oxford and McKinsey and many of the other technological leaders of our country and business leaders and academics, I think it's becoming quite apparent that something big is going on in terms of jobs and work as we move forward. And when they did a poll of 1,896 Pew experts, I thought what was interesting is that half of the experts, which is obviously a very large number, thought that there's a possibility of masses of people who are effectively unemployable and actually breakdowns in the social order. And when I met with Andy Grove along this journey, I mean, this is the thing that he said to me that I think is really important for today's thinking, is that we are, I think, at a strategic inflection point. These are moments of significant change. They often appear slowly, not clear until events are viewed in retrospect. And denial, which I think is what's happening about jobs and work, is present. And that is, I think, the status quo as we exist now, at least amongst our political leadership. So what do? So I draw my wisdom from a great American philosopher, Groucho Marx, who says, while money can't buy happiness, it certainly lets you choose your own form of misery. And from a great moral leader, Martin Luther King, who talked about the simplest approach to ending poverty, and I would say economic stability, is actually a universal basic income or a guaranteed income, which is actually what I've spent my time thinking about, giving every single adult American $1,000 a month, allowing them to make their own choices, providing economic stability for them and their family, and allowing people to figure out what are their needs, purposes, and opportunities in their life. Now, I appreciate there are a million questions about it. People ask about how much does it cost, and is it politically feasible, and who should actually get it, and should you have to work, and what does it mean about purpose and meaning in life? Which is why a number of us have created the Economic Security Project, which is trying to do what AI now is doing in this space, to really experiment with the idea of cash transfers, to do the necessary research as one of many scenarios. Because I think the most important thing we need to understand is that we don't need to have a debate about the future to figure out who's right or wrong. Any more than when Kim Jong-un says he's going to launch a weapon, we don't debate will he or won't he and what will Donald Trump do, but with rigor and intelligence, our military and academic people in the security industry figure out scenarios. And universal basic income, to me, is a scenario that we need to do. And for all of our highfalutin thinking about strategy and how we can make these change, I sort of end with what Milton Friedman said, that only a crisis produces real change. And what happens in a crisis is that people that have good, well-developed ideas lying around often find themselves in the center of the ability to make change. And I think this is a moment where we need those well-developed ideas of change. I think universal basic income is that right idea. And as Winston Churchill said about democracy, you know, UBI is a terrible idea until you try everything else. And what's your idea? Thanks.
Thank you, Andy.